video, we're going to talk about 5 things. I take my water. Hi guys, welcome to our channel. Yes.
Hi guys, welcome to our channel. We are the Ashayos. My name is Purity and this is my lovely husband
Shady.
and we are so excited to join this conversation that we're going to have today, and we are going to be talking about 5 ways that you can strengthen your relationship in this time and age, and especially if you desire to get married in the next 1 year or 2 years. This could be a very good conversation to have with your partner.
So, guys, marriage is a big commitment. It's a
Yes.
lifetime commitment. And if you don't take it with that seriousness, then you'll be in trouble. Because you'll get into something and then a few years later, down the line, you're like, I can't take this anymore. And there are many situations that you have, or many people that you have experienced or seen, maybe in the circle of your friends, that they started well saying, this is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. Then all of a sudden, till death do us part becomes, I can't take this anymore.
Yes.
And it's a reality, okay? And that's why in this channel, we spend a lot of time helping couples prepare well for their marriage. And as we talk about these 5 things, we want you to remember this one thing, that if you want to marry well and marry once, then marry well and prepare well.
Exactly. And one of the ways that we actually prepared well for marriage was when we started having probably the first stages of our relationship, was being clear about talking about what actually we were going through, whether it be what we were thinking, feeling, our emotions, or actually whatever it is that was going on in our hearts, our minds. Those things we had to tell each other. And I think this really helped get to know where the person is at, especially this time and age where we have mental health being such a key thing and such a very big thing in the society. It's important that you let your spouse know what is going on in your heart. And even the times when you probably feel very sad, sometimes we are very afraid to tell the partner, because maybe you feel, if I share this one big secret or this one thing that I'm going through, how will it be received? And the only way that you can actually know how it's received is actually saying it. If there are struggles that you have, fears that you have, for ladies, probably you're afraid that this guy would leave you. If you actually tell them that probably there are things in your past that are still clouding your mind. But this is the opportunity in the relationship to actually talk about these things. Because remember, guys, in marriage, these things get magnified. So if you didn't talk about something very important and very key in your life, whether it be past trauma, past issues that happened in your life, they come up in the marriage and they come up huge, and you wonder, where do we now start talking about this? Where do we start dealing about these things?
Yeah, and there's some things that are very hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Especially maybe you're dating this guy, and for you, when you look at this guy, you're like, I feel unsafe because of where they are financially, and there are some insecurities that you're experiencing in your own heart, in your own life, and you don't want to talk about it, which is bad, because now the guy feels like we are on the same page, but you're not. It's good to talk about. If you're having any insecurities, if you're having any concerns about their character, concerns about them, concerns about their families, concern about how they treat you, it's a great opportunity when you're dating, when you're preparing yourself for a future together, to actually pour out those things. I remember when we were dating, we actually talked about your situation when you were in school, and the way you struggled with menstrual
hemorrhage.
Hemorrhage.
The word. Yes.
Yeah, and it was good for us to talk about those things way before we get married, because we had to make some serious decision moving forward as to are we going to use contraceptives in our marriage, and this is something that you've used before and it was a bad experience. So am I as a person willing to say, let's not do this and find other ways of actually handling this situation in our marriage? And those are things that most people will not talk about, but later get into marriage and they're struggling, they're going through something that over and over it's a trauma, or it's a difficult situation that they had in their families. So it's good to actually openly and honestly say, this is my fears, this is my concerns, this is me, this is where I am, this is what I'm going through. I'm committed to a relationship, but there are these 3-5 things that we need to actually talk about. And we keep stepping here in Honey Let's Talk that when you talk, you make it better. Talking is an opportunity for you to make things better.
Yes, and just to probably add on that, I think sometimes we are afraid to be vulnerable in relationships because we feel as though we are not in control of our lives or our situations anymore. But actually, vulnerability actually helps you in the relationship get to know your partner even better. Can they withstand what you're going through in your lowest? Because people will actually, your partner will actually love you. I mean, when the both of you are okay, you will love each other even more. But when the vulnerability of things that for sure, these are your darkest moments in life, are shared to someone else, and that this person will stand with you even after getting married, is very fulfilling to have in your relationship. And you'd actually know what kind of a character do you have as a man or as a woman in the relationship, to know that, whatever you went through, whatever mistakes that you made, failures, I'm here with you and we're going to walk this journey together.
Yeah. So another thing that we did when we were dating, just to strengthen our relationship, because we knew that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together, was actually to invest in knowing each other, knowing our family members, knowing our histories, getting to know what are some of the things that you have experienced in your family. And we made some serious decision, especially now deciding, okay, this is a good thing. Made some serious decision to say, this is a good thing, you're coming with this from your family, it's a good thing, we'll adopt this one, or this one is not a good thing, or it's a good thing, but we don't think that we're gonna go forward with this, so we're gonna put this aside. When you invest in getting to know each other, you know each other outside emotions. Okay, you start knowing each other with your head, not just with your heart. That I am making decision with my head, knowing that Purity is coming from this kind of a family. This is how they have done things before in their family, and for 20 something years she has lived in this kind of an environment. So there are some worldviews, there are some beliefs, there are some of the things that have shaped the way she thinks about life. And on the other hand, I'm coming from a different space where I was raised by a single parent, so I'm coming with a different mindset about life, coming into the marriage with a different mindset about how a man or a woman should be or should act or should, the roles of me as a person or her as a woman. What is the role? So it's good to invest that time to actually get to know each other. And it begins by getting to know who are your friends, who are the people that you invest your life with, because your friends shape the direction of your life. Your friends influence a lot of how you see things and how you think, because these are people that you have spent a lot of time together. So putting aside emotions and saying, let's get to know each other. Let me know about your family. Let me know about that uncle that you're sure that uncle will not like me. Let us start thinking about that. Let's start knowing about, I was raised, like for Purity, she was raised around a lot of other ladies. Okay, there are many sisters in their families. So she was coming in from a place whereby when we were getting into marriage, she wants that talking and that French, that mushy. If she has a story, she wants let's gossip around this thing.
Not gossip.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Because that's how she's used to doing things, okay? Everyone is talking about everything. And on the other hand, I'm coming from a very small family where everyone with
Keeps
their
to
own
themselves.
life, they keep things to themselves. Now, coming into the marriage, it becomes a difficult place if you did not talk about these things, if you did not know these things, if you did not wrestle with these things, wrestling with the fact that we are going to be doing a lot of this in our house, and knowing which one is good and which one do we need to just say it's not good for us.
Yes, and I think getting to know one another, I'm sure probably some of you are asking yourself, what do you actually talk about when you go on a date? And these are some of the things that you can talk about. Family, that could take maybe 2 or 3 dates just talking about it. Another thing that's very important to talk about is, what do you value? I remember just a small thing that for me, I thought probably this was something not such a big deal, was when we got married. I'm married to a Maasai, okay? So Shadi believed that once we are married, we have to eat meat every day. And this was something that I felt we didn't need to eat meat every day because we had to take care of our health. And that's something I felt we had not talked about before getting married.
Meat is healthy.
You had not
Maasai
told
are the
me.
healthiest people you can find in this world.
We had not talked about it before.
I actually
getting
started
married.
adding weight when you stopped eating meat. Yeah.
No way, there's nothing like that. But guys, it may seem like a small thing, but it's actually a big thing, because then it determined even our own budget. You actually made us broke the first few because of buying meat everywhere.
It is. We invested in.
But that was something that we had to go back and talk about. And actually that now led us to think through what are some of the health choices that we are making that will influence or affect us 20, 30 years to come. So we actually, just out of that conversation, we ended up going vegetarian for a few months.
For 9 months.
Just to make sure that we are not going back to how it was. And even when we went back to now eating meat, it wasn't as bad as it was. So guys, it may have seemed like a small thing, but for me it was a big deal because we'd argue about it. And I think I have to cook meat again and again and again. But it's something that we realized that this was something that we had to address. And it was out of getting to know each other and knowing, wow, I married a Maasai man who eats meat. But how do we manage it in our home now, in our context?
Yeah. And for you guys, it might be something very different, but it's good that you sit down, talk about these things before you actually get married. And that can even include talking about what are some of the roles that we have in our marriage. Who should do what? Where should we invest our money? Who do we support as we get married? Because the reality is you can get married and one of you have been supporting maybe a family member or have been supporting a friend. Those are conversations you make before you get married and say, hey, you know what? There's this guy that I'm supporting, and I think when you get married, could we continue supporting them in this way so that it won't be a strain in your relationship?
Exactly. So the other way that we actually really try to prepare for marriage is to invest in our relationship. And this came in different forms. One was that we got mentor couples. These were people who would go to on sort of like a weekly basis to talk about different topics that for us we felt, how did they get it right, or how did they manage finances? How did they talk about intimacy in their marriage? How did they talk about, now living, knowing that we are in the ministry, what does that look like for your marriage? And all these conversations opened our minds up. You know the way you can be in a relationship and think that you know everything and that you know each other, that even if someone else is to talk to you about anything about your relationship, you're like, yeah, we know each other well. But we realized that having people who are older and who had gotten married way, probably 10, 15, 20 years in marriage, helped us to look into marriage a bit differently than the way we thought. So alone, it doesn't mean that talking to other people about your relationship and saying this is what we are doing, that is not enough. Having someone else pour knowledge on you helps you to identify what could be the things that we have to work on before we get married. What are some of the things that we have to put into consideration before getting married? Things like finances. You think that in your first year you'll just budget and things go well, and then you realize 4 or 5 years later you have to go back to the same conversations that you had and try to figure out, how did these guys actually manage finances, and how did they invest? How were they able to pay school fees for their kids? And that informed decisions we had to make getting into marriage and making decisions. These are things from the word go we have to put in our minds as we talk about something like finances.
Yeah. So I'm having older couples. It's amazing. They will invest. You can invest in them and they will invest in you guys, because marriage is, quote unquote, a community thing.
Exactly.
You get to learn from other people so that you navigate your own relational issues. Another way you can invest in yourself is finding peer couples, guys who have gotten married maybe below 5 years, or just guys that have just recently gotten married, or even guys that are planning to get married, and you have a group together and share experiences and talk about things and hold each other accountable in the relationship. And one of the things you can do together as a group, number one, you can find books to read together. There are a few books that we read. There is a book on boundaries. There is a book on the 5 love languages. Those are amazing books that you can invest time and invest in your relationship through the knowledge you get from these books. And I remember before even we started dating, you actually went for therapy.
Yes.
For a couple of weeks.
After you asked me to be your wife. Before we even dated.
Did I ask you to be my
Yes,
wife?
you did.
That was...
You did. And then I told you I'm going for therapy. Because I wanted to be whole. I
You
just
got
didn't
shocked.
feel
You're
whole.
like,
No.
oh my God. I'm
I
getting
actually
married.
did feel whole.
Yeah.
I felt as though there are things that I've not worked on.
I think because I was
myself.
a church planter, I was broke, so you decided,
That's like,
I'm gonna
this one
go
is my wife.
for therapy because I'm not sure how I'm gonna handle a church planter
It was
who is
not,
broke.
It was not for you. It was for me.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So
Part of it was that also. You are a church planter.
you can invest in therapy. It's okay for Christian to go for therapy. If you feel like there's some things you need to process, there are various things that you feel like you've gone through in your life, and you need just to go there. Invest in your relationship. Invest in yourself.
Exactly.
It's super important, guys. We'll repeat that again. Invest in yourself because it's super important. Remember what I said, that if you want to marry once, marry well.
Exactly. And I think the other place that we also poured into was people that we could also pour to them. Because as much as we were receiving knowledge, we knew that if we met any couple who were probably just started dating and we were in probably a different phase of our dating relationship, that we felt the need to actually just share with them whatever it is that we were going through and be able to sort of like encourage them in that journey. And that actually really helped us also know what are some of the things that are really key for us, that when we share, we know that these are things for sure that we have gotten, we have probably researched on, talked about, and what are some of the things that we still need work in because we can't share more about it because we have no knowledge of it. And that made us go back to getting more knowledge through books, through reading the word, through also these mentor couples that helped us in the process.
Yeah. So another thing you can do is to be authentic, to be yourself, okay? Let your partner see the real you. Don't hide behind, I want to impress. And it's okay in your early stages to try and, impress your woman or impress your man. But it's okay to just be yourself. I remember a story. Okay, this is a true story of a guy, and maybe some of you have heard it because it was trending a couple of years ago, of a guy who loved this woman. She was the most beautiful woman according to him. And one day they decided to go for swimming. Okay? The guy had never seen this girl without makeup. That was the end of their relationship, because for once the guy saw the girl and he was like, nah,
What did he
this
say?
is not, I don't know, but he was like, no, this one, I'm done.
Is
I
it
can't.
the makeup or the body or the face?
I think it's the makeup, because now the girl was, she was like herself. There was no makeup. You know, the problem with this makeup is that they can transform you from being one, your head is shaped in a certain way, and then all of a sudden your head is, it's crazy. But it's just the reality. I know that one was a bit shallow for him, but it's the reality of things. You just need to be yourself. If you're broke, just be yourself. Say, you know what, I am broke, I don't have the money. Okay, if you don't like me, you don't like me now. Or if you're not, if you've never gone to school, just say it. It's okay. Or if you don't know how to do certain things, it's okay to say, by the way, I don't know how to swim, or I don't know how to do this. When you are authentic with yourself, then you're giving your partner the opportunity to love the real you. Then together you can improve. Together you can grow in your relationship.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that also being yourself makes you in the relationship is it actually also makes you feel very light. That you can like you can fart in front of your partner and they don't feel like they've offended you. I know that's like a bit extreme.
That's in marriage.
Even in the
No, when you're dating, no. I'm gone. I ain't doing this.
But will you leave me because of that?
Yes.
You can't.
What do you mean?
If it is a natural cause in your body, a natural
excuse
happening.
yourself, go outside, then come back. It's
The other thing is probably the way you eat. These are simple things, by the way, that can sometimes turn people off. Probably it's the way you blow your nose. I don't know. Such things. And probably when you are dating, it's very easy to, be like, excuse me, and you go to a certain place. But actually, your partner should know some of your habits, because there are habits that later on they become such a thorn in the flesh or such a struggle in the marriage. I remember one, for an instance, is because I never stayed with you for any night in our dating life, I didn't know how much Shadi would actually spend. I'd say he's very active at night in terms of he's able to walk.
I'm very active at night.
No, you're able to.
Very active at night. Underline active. I don't know what activity is, but
no, you're able
active.
to. Like your mind comes alive.
Really?
If you want to be creative, if you want to.
What are we talking about here?
Write a blog.
Oh, we're
I'm talking about work. If you want to probably think through a certain someone, your mind is most active in the night. Now, when we got married, it was actually something that for me, I didn't know that was that extreme, because then for me, I was not trying to match up to his time. Me, I'm here struggling because I'm not really a night person, and I'd wake up in the morning so tired because I'm trying to sort of like meet his, I'll stay with you through the night as you think about your someone, and yet I have to go to work the next morning, and that became a struggle in the marriage. But it's also something that we had not talked about because we were never in a space where we had lived or stayed with each other when you were in that particular space of working at night or spending the night and thinking through certain things about work or anything like that. So I had to now think through, okay, this is who he is. So how do we then make sure that I am not struggling because of trying to keep you and be of company to you at night, but also that I'm understanding that you are more active in the night and supporting that, but also getting my sleep, which I think took a while to get to understand, to get to probably get used to it. But it was such a huge, I didn't know that was who you are before getting married.
Yeah. So I think the last thing that we want to share with you, there are many things that you can do to strengthen your relationship. But one of this last thing is super important, especially if you're planning to get married in the next 1 or 2 years. Strengthen your relationship for marriage. It's to invest in premarital counseling. Premarital counseling is one of the most effective way that you can get to process things in your relationship, because one, you get to process things that you could have never thought about if it was just the two of you. From a facilitator's point of view, they know what to ask. They know questions to help you, ask yourself. So it is a good space to actually invest that time before you even decide if this is the person you want to marry. And here's something that we keep on, thinking about is, when is the right time to do premarital counseling? Is it before proposing, or is it after proposing? I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think? Leave a comment below and tell us, what do you think? Is it before or after? For us, we think you need to do premarital counseling before you actually propose. Because proposing is asking someone to be your wife. Asking someone, hey, you know what? Would you be my wife? But I want to ask her to be my wife when I've already processed and I've seen, hey, you know what? I know you. I know about your family. We have processed about the future. We have thought about marriage. We have thought about all these things. And that is just our opinion. I don't know about you guys. Then now I can confidently say, would you be my wife? And because now, her as my girlfriend, she has already processed things. She knows me. She knows where I'm coming from. She knows my flaws. She knows the things that I struggle with. Now she has enough information to make the decision whether to say yes or no. If she has some insecurities, if she has some fears, if she has some concerns, that is the right place for her to say, you know what? No. But because most of us, you go there because of emotion, yes, then you go into a premarital counseling, then you realize, no, this is not the person I want to spend the rest of my life. You know what? You have wasted money buying the ring. You have wasted a lot of resources trying to build something together. And that's why we say invest first in the knowledge, invest first in premarital counseling, then invest on the ring. Because now you know this is the person. I have made the decision that I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Here's another thing that you need to think about. If you want to effectively go through premarital counseling, do it a year before your wedding day. At least 8 months before your wedding day. Here's why that is important. Most premarital counseling programs that I know, that my wife knows, or the ones that we have researched together and we have seen, premarital counseling is done a few weeks to the wedding, which is bad, which you don't even have time to make adjustments. If I am in a premarital counseling with my girlfriend, I need to sit there and we discuss things. And then if there's something that I'm concerned about, we have enough time to work on ourselves, to work on the relationship before the wedding day. But if I'm doing it a few weeks to the wedding, I'm not even thinking about what is going on between the two of us. I'm thinking about vendors, I'm thinking about service providers, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about the wedding day, I'm thinking about, she's thinking about the gowns, the bridesmaids, the what. She doesn't have time to process it. That's why we say, do it a year, 8 months before your big day. And it's okay to go through premarital counseling and not get married. It is okay. It is better than going through premarital counseling, getting married, and then a week or a month down the line, you're like, no. I don't want to spend the rest of my life with this person. So it is it's easier to actually suffer the pain of that breakup than suffering the pain of a divorce. And most of the time, these things can be avoided. You can process way before. So here's our recommendation. If you're dating someone right now and you're serious about getting married, find a premarital counselor. Find a premarital counseling program. Find 3 couples and say, hey, can you guys go through premarital counseling? You know what we did? We bought the book before even we began the premarital counseling program. We bought the book. We started reading the book together. We started asking each other questions way before we started the program. And it was so beneficial for us because when we started the program, we were fortunate or unfortunate. found ourselves in a group whereby most of the people that we were together, they were all married. So they were just redoing it because they were cohabiting. Now they wanted to do things the right way. And for us, being in that group was, one, good because we learned from people who were already married. We learned from people who had made the mistakes. And two, it was a bit hard for us because most of the things that we were talking about was from a firefighting kind of position, because people are coming in with real life situations. And for us, we were like, we want to know, how do we prepare? You guys are talking about what is happening, but we want to know how to prepare. That's why premarital counseling, it's absolutely important. So let us know on the comment, what do you think about premarital counseling? What is some of the things that you are doing, you and your partner, to strengthen your relationship for marriage? And we promise to read all those comments, and we'll try as much as possible to do a video or talk about the concerns that you guys have.
Yes, so thank you so much for watching. Thank you for just joining us in this conversation. Make sure you like